Hello folks, welcome to week 2 video. In this video we're going to teach you a couple tricks, a couple tools, and learning about the desktop in your Ubuntu operating system. I'm going to give you some basic commands that you should know, and you're going to be adding to them every week. We're going to be working with them every week, and this is just the beginning. So let's get started. The first thing I want to teach you is, remember we were talking about resizing our display in our virtual machine. So we have to, before we start our virtual machine, because by default settings in here you have a display setting that's set, and yours should be set to VM SVGA by default. What I want you to do is select the VBox SVGA. And don't worry about this invalid settings detected down here. Just click OK. Now when you remember, the machine has to be powered off, so it can't be and says saved right here. It has to be powered off. Double click it, start it, and then when we log in I'll show you the difference. This enables us, or enables the display when you stretch it to make it larger. It'll stretch with your window that you have for VirtualBox. You don't have to go full screen, but you can actually just have the windowed display going, and it'll stretch to whatever size you want to set it to, which is a really nice thing to have. So if you're going to be tiling in your screen, so if you have two screens up, one for note-taking, one for your virtual machine running, it's actually kind of nice to have. I wanted to make sure you guys, you folks, have this. Oops, I gotta type in, I can't see my keyboard. There we go. Sorry about that. So virtual machine is booting up. I stuck with 4 gig just so I can show you kind of how things work with 4 gig on your virtual machine. I know some of you had questions on that. Some of you are still having issues. Please post in the either your assignments or the discussion group, and we can have a discussion on repairing or getting your problems fixed, or we can take care of it, the issues, whatever issues you're having with your virtual machine. And that way I'll only have to answer them once, and if you read that as they post, then you'll know that you might have that issue. Kind of like the BIOS setting for the VT of your laptop or your computer. So the virtual technology will actually let the hardware engage with your virtual machine. That means that you can use a 64-bit operating system. So now you'll see my screen when I resize it, the screen size is with it. Before, it would stay in the 800 by 600 mode. So this way you can actually stretch it to whatever size you want to do, and you're going to stretch your screen. So if you're working with a couple terminal windows, which is another tool that I want to teach you to use, terminal is where we are going to enter our shell to put in our commands. This is the command line interface, or CLI. In the old days we used to call it a command line interpreter. So terminal, you won't have this here. I added it to my favorites. So where do we find it? We go down here into the show applications button, and then we just type TERM. You can start typing and terminal will pop up. You just hit enter and it'll start. Once you start it, to put it in your favorites, you right click on the little button and you click add to favorites. So now even if I close out my terminal window, it still stays there. Because we're going to be using this a lot, I suggest you put it there. You don't need Calibri document writer. You don't need I think there's one for Amazon. There might be a couple others over here on the side that we're not going to use. So the file manager I would keep, the question mark I would keep, the browser I would keep, and terminal I would keep. And then if you find any other applications that you want to use, you can actually keep them there too. So we resized our screen. We've set it so we can adjust for us. And now we're going to open up terminal window. Inside terminal window, I want you to notice a couple things. You have a prompt right here, which tells you a little bit about where you are in your operating system. This tilde tells me that I'm in my home directory. for my user that's currently logged in. The user that I'm using is Mickey, and the machine that I'm logged into is VirtualBox. What I want to show you, this cursor is where you're going to be entering your text. I'm hitting the enter key. So how do I know what directory I'm in? Let's say I'm in another directory. There's a thing called print working directory, or PWD. This command will tell you the exact location or the folder that you're currently working in. So it's called print working directory. That's one of the commands you should know and get used to using, and commonplace to know exactly what your current working directory is that you're in. The other is what's in my current directory, or what's in a directory. We use the ls command or list command. These are other directories, and I can tell that by the color of them. Blue means a directory. So desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures, public, templates, and videos. These are all directories in my home directory. So this is the user, this is the home directory, and these are the directories inside that. I can show you graphically by opening up our File Explorer. So if I click on the File Explorer, look, this is my home directory, and these are the same directories that I'm viewing in here, except they're being shown in a graphical way. The graphical way meaning in our File Explorer on our desktop. So the GUI, Graphical User Interface. So the next command I want to show you is how do you change your working directory. This is called CD. So let's go into Documents. And you'll notice, make sure you look and write exactly as you see it, because it is syntax oriented. Very syntax oriented, meaning that if there's a capital there, you got to put a capital in. If there's a period, you got to put a period. If there's a dash, you got to put a dash. So CD, not BD, CD space document. Now I'm in the Documents folder, and you'll notice that my prompt has changed. So now I have this added to my other prompt. And that leaves us in here. I can do PWD, and it'll give me the path to my current working directory. And I can do LS, it should be empty, is in Documents. So I have nothing in here. We're going to learn how to create files, create folders, move things around, edit them, copy them, change them, delete them, change the permissions, see the permissions, see how everything's running. But I wanted to get you started with a few commands, because you're going to be reading chapter 1, and inside there they give you some other commands. And some of them are going to be with a command called sudo. And it's like sudo. And you're like, what is sudo? Sudo is what we put in front of a command if we want to make changes to something that's either system oriented or that has other permissions on it. This will give us what's called root permissions to a command. Kind of like in Windows when you run as administrator. You can right click on something and say run as administrator. In Linux and command line it's sudo, and this gives us root privileges to the command that we want to run. The other commands in there that you're going to read about in chapter 1 is apt. So apt is the advanced packaging tool, which allows us to install or uninstall software from the internet. And one of the things that we are going to learn, not right in the first chapter, but I'm going to show you what it is sudo, because we're going to be installing software, it needs permissions. We're going to do apt, and we're going to do get, get, and updates. This is going to update, not updates, sorry. This is going to ask me for permission first, because I need to put in the password of my root user, and that's your account. Oops. Maybe it's not get. Sorry. Sudo add. There we go. Update. So what this is doing is going out to the internet. That was my mess up there. No get. So just do update. Sudo apt update. apt. This is going out to the internet looking at all the locations of the servers that is configured on this machine to store software that we can download from. These are called repositories. We'll get into that later on in a later chapter. And it's going to update the lists that you have locally of all the software that's out there. This gives us the ability to, when we want to download or look for new software, it's going to give us the latest and greatest version of that software. And it's in a package form. We'll get into the packages and snappies and software and how to maintain that later on. You're going to read some of this, so I wanted to not confuse you too much. But you're going to run into the sudo, you're going to run into apt, and they're going to do -get or space get and install, and they're going to tell you about some software like desktop. So they're going to teach you how to install another desktop. Don't do it on your virtual machines. Let me go through a process. Next week we'll go through on how to copy our virtual machines, and so we can do a backup of it. I told you about this, I think this in the past videos, in this past week, but next week we'll actually go through that process and actually back up our virtual machines. I think this is the end of this video for now, and we're going to keep adding to the list of tools that you're going to be using. And these tools are mostly commands and the knowledge of where things are and how to manipulate them. So for now, thank you very much. I will talk to you soon.